Yeah, we'll do it for traveling.
All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Another episode of Sunday Funday and Shop Talk. I am Chronic Chris of AsgardRadio.com. With me, as always, Troy E. Anderson of International Punk Kings and Peter Cerman, international recording artist. And, he's been hanging out with us the last couple of weeks, and we enjoy talking to Peter. Uh, we were just behind the scenes talking about traveling and stuff and languages barriers traveling overseas. I myself have never been overseas. I've been to Canada, I've been to Mexico, and I've been all over the United States. I did that when I was young and dumb. I left Illinois with $900 in my pocket and a plan in my head. I had gotten a whole mess load of sunglasses and flags, and I bought them from a wholesaler at rock bottom prices. And as I was traveling along, when I needed a little bit of money, I set up my flags and my sunglasses and my little table there at the truck stops and flea markets and wherever else, and made money that way and just kind of funded my trip that way, and ended up out west in California and Arizona, Nevada, and followed Ozfest around for a little bit, and it was a blast.
Traveling is fun. Peter, what's your advice on traveling to foreign lands?
Well, first of all, I would like to say hello to everybody, to our listeners
Hello,
and
everyone. This is
viewers.
Peter.
Thank you very much for watching and listening. So, and Troy, about the traveling, that was your question, correct?
Yes, I like traveling. What do you any advice for the world about traveling at different foreign lands?
I would advise anybody around the world in 7 continents that we have. It doesn't matter what country or what continent you're from. Go and travel to different continents, different countries, different cultures, because that's the first way how we can learn about different people, how they really live. In the United States, we have a melting pot. We have people from all over the world. Now, if we go to different countries, let's say France, Germany, Italy, or name all of them, it's not such a melting pot as the United States. So
they're more national or centered. I take it.
So I would advise if people can afford, go and travel, go for 2 weeks, 1 month, but learn about the culture of the country that you're staying in for like a week or 2 or 1 month, and try to understand where people are coming from and where they going. That's my best advice. And that's what I learned when I was 16 years old, my first time here in North America, in Canada, that world is different on the other side, in different countries, continents. If that answers your question, Troy.
And I would say that it's pretty obvious and elemental, but it's something maybe people don't realize. But there's such an advantage of having 2 languages. If you can speak German and English versus just speaking one, like English, that's got to be tough for a traveler, right?
Well, yeah. Well, the good thing for Americans, for instance, or British or Australians, that most of the world, they speak English as a second or third or fourth language. So if we stick with just a basic English, not using like local slangs, they will understand and they will be able to communicate back to us.
Right. Awesome. That's why I always like the show where we were able to like even that time when we were, was it your friend was he in Prague at the time? That spoke in your tongue. Was it what language was that? Was it Czech or was that?
Marek Šmerda?
Yeah.
Yeah, from Cradle of Filth.
Cradle of Filth, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my God, yeah. They just yeah, he was actually in Brno when we were talking. And speaking of him, he just finished last night the last show of international tour last night or a couple nights ago.
Okay.
And that was in Mexico City, I believe. Okay. So huge concert. But anyways, speaking of him, this is what happened to him. His guitars did not arrive on time. So they go and play in front of 20,000 people, in a few hours. Yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
the whole stadium sold out, you know, and he has no freaking guitar. Okay, so
Oh,
and that is
Oh my God,
frustrating.
how did that happen?
Sound check. Well, you know how shipping is, and especially in countries, third world countries, it could be delayed, for some reason.
Okay.
So, anyways, his guitars, I don't know how many he was bringing, but none of them is there, and sound check is about to start. So luckily,
wow.
there was some gentleman or somebody who was part of the management, So he
Yeah.
hooked him up with just one guitar,
Yeah.
flying V. So he had to play the whole concert with one guitar,
A
and
flying V.
that
Of all things, a
that
flying
is
V.
fucking amazing, because I know he's usually using like 4, 5, maybe 6 different guitars,
Correct.
So just using one guitar, that was pretty fucking cool, amazing that he pulled it up. So
Good
that
job.
was
speaking of guitars and tours
That's what I'm
and
saying.
shows in
Segue.
Mexico,
Yes.
I caught video from the first show for the tribute, Pantera tribute in Mexico, and I'd like to think that Zach Wild and Charlie Benante did justice.
Okay.
I think Zach did very well. He used a Dean, a dime style Dean guitar, but it did have the Zach bullseye on it, which, mixing the two styles I thought was a cool thing. So yeah, hopefully when they get to the United States, I'll have a ticket for either St. Louis or Chicago.
And I'll do a side segment before we go back to Peter. Powerwolf, which is the band I'm trying to work with in Germany through Robert. That's the reason I was trying to get somebody on when we were thinking about this show. And this has to be something I guess it's more me. I guess I'm getting a little selfish here. I got to take a trip to Europe just to move something. So as we were talking in the back, the pre-show, guys, ladies and gentlemen, I do believe that Americans got to go to Europe. We just got done with this COVID thing, and if you're a real dedicated artist and you have a goal like myself, I got a passion for both journalism and other artists. I have to go to Europe, and I think that's just a segue. There's a mission I think everyone has, and sometimes a guitar, especially a V guitar. I watched it being made. Like I was watching stuff we're talking about our guitar players that make so much into the what kind of guitar they make, and if you don't have one, you have to rely on what you got. That V guitar, I watched, dude. That's like making a cake. You guys ever saw how they make V guitars? It's a layering process.
Yeah,
right, Peter.
Yeah, well,
every company,
every company, you mentioned Dean's, Zach Wild is mainly using Gibson, Fenders, Ibanez, B Series, Jackson, ESP, name all the brands, they have different feel of neck, and it really depends on a guitarist who is playing and what genre of music they're playing and what they feel comfortable with. What is their left hand fingering, that's what we call. So somebody might be comfortable with Gibson, somebody might be comfortable with Ibanez, different brands, so it's very personal opinion and feeling of, how that artist feels about the neck and the whole, obviously setup that is done.
You almost put it in a philosophy of like Bruce Lee. It's all about the feeling, the fingerness of the touch, because you are dealing with your fingers, and those little tippy fingers are what you're basing it on. And it's really all about that, the precision. There's a German word for it, and that's another reason why we learned for German, because I remember there's a word that means that in German. It's we don't use it in America, but it means the detailedness of you probably know this more than I do. Go ahead, Peter. Just reiterating what you're saying.
Yeah,
exactly. There's a feeling.
So it's about that feeling, I grabbed a $120 guitar and it felt so good, but it sounded like shit because pickups, and setup, but the neck felt really good, and I bought the guitar.
Great.
And
Yeah.
I changed pickups.
Okay.
I scalloped neck, and I did my own settings. And
Got
that's
better?
probably one of my best guitars that I have in my recording studio. I have like 30 of them plus, you know, and I love that guitar. It was $120 guitar, and George Lynch.
Because it felt great. You made it sound better.
Yeah, I made it sound better because I changed the pickups and obviously strings, and I set it up my way. You know, and I scalloped neck. You know, I like scalloped necks. So and yeah, I went to
Nice.
Home Depot and I got a little machine, you know, that is able to just scallop the neck. And I said, like, if I fuck it
That
up,
would be
whoop de
breaking
doo.
news. Is this your first one? Did you actually your baby guitar like, you know, make? Was it your first custom you kind of played with?
Well, the first
Or the one
custom
you're
that
actually finishing up, I guess.
I am not luthier. You know, I cannot build guitars, obviously. But you know, like that neck just felt so good, and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, 120 bucks. You know, it was a Squire actually, the Squire
Yeah.
guitar,
I'm
and
familiar
I'm
with
like,
guitar.
if I make my changes, I have two options. Either I'm gonna make it really nice, or I'm gonna fuck it up. Okay, if I fuck it up, $120 out of window, which is, you
Right.
know, that's quite a lot of money, but not the end of the world, you know. So
No.
so and I was messing with it for like a couple of days, scallop the neck, you know, change the pickups, you know, pick guard, set up everything, you know, strings, and then boom, oh my god, that guitar was screaming.
Screaming. Screaming. And they call
Yeah.
that a screaming guitar, right? Why do they call that a screaming guitar? Because you can hear everything perfectly, right? The high pitches.
Why? No, you know why?
Keys?
You know why? Sure,
Huh.
because when I'm using tube amps, as you guys know, right?
Right.
Mainly Marshalls and Wagners. And
Okay.
you know, when you crank them up, you know, halfway, let's say if it's a 50 watt or 100 watt head, you know, you make it sound loud, and
Okay.
you hear that guitar is screaming, you know, especially
Screaming.
like when you screaming like "Wah!" like super loud, you know. Just it sounds
Yeah.
like, you know, especially if you play heavy metal. Obviously, if you play jazz
Right.
or blues,
Exactly.
you know,
That's my
it's
style.
we
I
don't
think your
call
style,
it
Chris's style.
screaming,
I mean, we're
but
pretty much metal. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's just like
Yeah.
when you
We're
crank
metal
up that
guys.
amp. Yeah, when you crank up that guitar and you have nice setup and nice pickups, and it's just screaming. That's what we call it, guitarists. You know, that guitar is screaming, or that amp is screaming, or combination. So
I don't
At
know if
that point, I'm going to make another segue. Chris, you know, if you want to introduce the audience this, on our second half, we're going to have a guitar player, and he's going to look a little bit different. Do you want to cue on the audience on what's going to be upon us? I believe his name is Hellfrost.
Hellfrost, yes.
He does look a bit different, doesn't he? And actually, Peter listened to a little bit of stuff. I get to Peter. So
he does look a little bit different, but hey, you know what? No offense, and I've said it many times. We've had some freaks on the show. We've had a freak show. We've had a freak show on the show.
Yes, but that's great. But a demon?
Yes.
We're in the commercial. Demon who's giveaway.
The keyboardist from Fallen Aries. The dude kind of resembles Gene Simmons a little bit.
Okay. That's resembling. I'm talking. He literally has implants. He's a demon.
Oh, nice, wicked. Yeah. Freak show.
Yeah.
We had a guy called Freak Show.
Yes.
And I thought it was something else because I found out he was from Venice. And I was like, really? We got the Venice Freak Show? And I got really, really excited because I thought it was the Venice Freak Show, the Boardwalk Freak Show that, you know, they had their own show on A&E and shit. And I'd been out there and I'd seen them before back in 2007. And it was really wicked right there on the boardwalk. But I thought it was them. And then it turns out it was this other artist who was from Venice, but he lived in San Diego. And he had implants and he had all kinds of piercings, and you could, oh my God, you could barely see his face
It's
from
like
all the piercings.
The Enigma. That was a freak show scenario, and it's funny that you mentioned freak show. Again, I keep on going with coincidence. And rest the soul of my friend about ready to announce. There's an old friend of mine, Teddy Haggerty, movie guy. I used to talk to him, advise me over at Bob's Java Jive, big teapot over here in Tacoma. Anyway, he always told me there's no coincidence. And the thing, the reason I'm saying that right now as a segue aspect of this is that my first song is not Sex and War. My first song was called Freak Show. And it still is my first song I ever created with IPK. So it's funny we keep on mentioning the word Freak Show. And here's the funny thing: Metallica's new song that came out, the first word that came out of Hetfield's mouth was Freak Show.
Right on.
Believe it or
not. Backing up real quick, because
that new song that
I wanted to I wanted to real quick tell Peter the story of this guitar, because this is actually the one I play or try to play. I mean, I know 3 chords, and I just like to piddle around up and down the fretboard and make some noise and annoy my wife. But it's a 1996 Washburn, and I actually pulled this out of the garbage and have done pretty much nothing but replace the strings and repair the nut. But I mean, it plays beautifully and everything. And my little brother thought it was junk and threw it in the garbage. And I just so happened to be up there visiting that weekend. And I was like, what's with the guitar in the garbage? And it's garbage. Leave it alone. I'm like, nope. Threw it in the trunk of my car. I said, I'll look at it when I get home. I got home. I plugged it into the amp. Everything worked. All the pickups work. All the switches and everything worked good. I said, cool. I put some brand new strings on it and left everything alone.
Chris, right on. And that's exactly what I was talking about. Every one of us are different, and it doesn't make us be better or worse. You know, sometimes you can pick up, guitar from trash can, like you said, or inexpensive guitar, as long as you as an artist, guitarist, as long as you like it and it sounds good for your style of playing, your genre of music that you're playing, it counts. It's good.
Right.
Don't change it. You don't have to have a $10,000 guitar, So
right. I can only play a couple chords, but I can't put them chords together to make a song. So I actually prefer to do stuff that lets me pick around the fretboard, like the intro to Sweet Child of Mine, the intro for Carol of the Bells, or I like to do the Slayer just going up and down the fretboard.
South of Heaven.
Yeah, South. Yeah. Granted, I don't sound as good as them, but it's something I like to do, something to play with. So.
Well, and also, Chris, speaking of, like you're learning South of Heaven. Let's put it this way. Every one of us, guitarists or bass guitarists or keyboardists or drummer, we have somehow in our blood, what I call written, the style that we like to play. Somebody likes to play and is really good in blues, but they cannot play heavy metal, or the other way around. Okay, so it really depends on your style. So Kerry King and unfortunately Jeff Hanneman, who passed away a few years ago, they clicked together as a 2 guitarists because they had pretty much the same style of playing. And then obviously Tom Araya as a bass guitarist and vocalist, and Dave Lombardo, absolutely genius on drums. They clicked all 4 of them. And that's the whole point. That what Kerry King or Jeff Hanneman is doing, it's maybe not suitable for you. Maybe there is a little bit different style. And this is what I always advise my students that when I teach either instrument, I teach 6 different musical instruments. Find your own style. Don't try to be like Jimi Hendrix, Yngwie Malmsteen, James Hetfield, Kirk Hammett, Kerry King, you name all of them. Don't try to be. You can try to learn to get close to what they play. but don't get frustrated, because that's the beginning of the end. Oh my God, I cannot play what Kerry King is playing or James Hetfield. I'm like, well, dude, maybe you will get it eventually at some point, but find your own style. Like you said, you're playing 3 chords, stick with 3 chords, bring it up to 5 or 6 chords, and then different scales, different progressions,
Right.
just close your eyes and just noodle around. That's my best advice to you. And it doesn't matter if you have a $10,000 guitar or guitar that you pulled out of trash can and made it sound absolutely amazing for yourself.
Right.
Make sense?
Exactly. And see how I said, I just like to go up and down the fretboard picking notes and picking what I feel. And when I'm doing stuff like that, for some reason, it always seems to come out sounding like something that should be on a blues album. Just that,
Yeah, that's good. 30 years ago or so, oh my God, I'm 48. So yeah, I was
Peter,
like, probably, yeah, I can hear you.
All right, cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
It is snowing like crazy. So if I have a little bit of offness, it's probably because of the snow, just so you guys know. And ladies and gentlemen, again, just so you guys know, we are going to have our special guests on in about 20 minutes, but it's going to be on part 2, right, Chris? We're going to do
when he comes in, we're going to end this episode. When he comes in, we're going to end this episode.
Segue. Yeah.
Go backstage for 5 minutes and then start a part 2. So, it's not all just one full 2-hour show or whatever, it's broken down into segments to keep
prepared. So, yeah, we got to get prepared.
People's attention span within that attention span zone.
And we're telling the audience what we're doing before we do it. And I think that's great. It's like this, I hate to say it, like the Seahawks or a football play. We'll give you all our information, what we're doing, because we're not fake. We're not.
Exactly.
I think there was one guy said, well, I remember that one person, we're not going to mention the name, but why don't you have a script? Why don't you have this? Because that's our official. That's what we do. We're not fakers. We're doing it on the fly, but we're recording it, but we're doing it literally real. As real as you can get.
I'll tell you what, and I don't like scripts. There's a lot of good actors out there. There's a lot of amazing script readers out there.
I'm sure there is.
But also at the same time, there's a lot of them when you can tell they're reading a script and it's like, no, dude, be natural about it. And that's why I say, I don't like to do interviews. I don't like the word interview. We're having a chat, like a couple of friends catching up.
Fun. So like when I say international, in a sense, interviews with the other part of Shop Talk international interviews, is because it's not just one interview. It's many segments of thought. And conversation should be many segments of thought, and that's just a natural aspect. Some people think it's an edited version. Well, that's what people can do when they're a writer or like a music person that wants to strip things in a song. But I think when you're doing a conversation in an editorial piece, you have a length of time to talk. But besides that, if you have commercials, yeah, I guess, but we don't have commercials. And we had advertisement anyway. Nowadays, you're going to have commercials on the sidelines like a football game. So it's going to be all like a football game. They have commercials.
You might get a YouTube ad while watching the show.
Yeah, but that's about it. But you're gonna discontinue the ad. I mean, for God's sake, Joe Rogan, what he did 15 minutes of commercials before his show and 15 minutes afterwards, and he was on for 3 hours, a lot longer than us.
Yeah, but I agree. I agree with what Chris is saying, and you, Troy. This is like I call it like an open table. We don't read script. Open table. Round table. There is not like boss or the main guy who's going to lead the conversation and read this and looks like it's all fake, pre-written, So we sit here and we chat about stuff that we like to talk about. And obviously we don't talk politics, we don't talk religion, we don't talk any dirty porn stuff, so we talk about music or art, bands, music equipment, like we're talking about. It's a round open table, like we sit in restaurant or pub, have a couple beers and just chat. And hey, what's your opinion on this? Oh, I like that. Oh, cool. You like that guitar? I like this. So that's why I like these shop talks. I know, Chris, you don't like to call it interviews, but
it is. That's what it is. That's why. But like I said, we're chatting like a couple.
Multiple interviews. multiple conversations, multiple stuff. And here's the thing, Peter, and then I wanted to alliterate on that point one last time before we go into segment, because he's going to be on in probably 15 more minutes, our new guest. And this is really important for anyone who's doing podcasts. This I believe, and I would be a complete idiot if I did not tell the world. I believe when you're doing this stuff, when you're long and old or dead, just remember something. How did it work out in the history aspect? You know, was it just as good 20 years, 20 minutes, 200 years? I mean, sometimes legacy is important. I mean, maybe those great artists were smart. They were very like philosophers. They took their time on thinking, not overthinking. You know?
Hey, and just also remember this, Troy. Long after we're dead and gone, these episodes will still be on YouTube.
I hope so.
Yeah, and yeah, Troy, you have a point. You know, back you know, the 60s, 70s, 80s. You know, it was not so pre-written. You know, like nowadays. You know, people get up front of a TV camera or radio microphone or whatever interview or whatever show, and it's pre-written. You know, so we're doing it just like, you know, just spontaneously. You know, and that's
I think it's what's opposite road though too. On a lot of stuff. Improv, yes, improv. And like comedians do this a lot. Comedians, they always want to gag. There's no audience, obviously. We're all the only audience. Me and you are the only people who are going to laugh or have the conversation. It's our energy that's going to be part of the show. There's no outer energy. There's no audience yet. I mean, we wouldn't mind having an audience, but you know, it would just be loud and it'd be less talkable. You know, be like, and then like talk. And, you know, I can only imagine what an audience would be like. So
even like when I'm doing Asgard. On air and stuff, and the one kid I work with, he came over one day and watched me do a show, and I put the microphone in front of him a couple of times and whatnot. But I asked him, I was like, would you ever want to come over and just do your own show and have some fun with it? He's like, I couldn't do it. I don't know how you do it, how you like plan out what you're gonna say. I'm like, I don't plan out what I'm gonna say. I don't know what I'm gonna say until that microphone goes on and the words are coming out of my mouth.
Yeah, but this is your career. But no. But this thing, I'm not going to alliterate for the point of the audience, but I want to be honest with you, Chris. You've always wanted to be a talk show host, just like I always wanted to be in broadcasting and music. So a lot of people, I hate to say it, it ain't just fear. They just don't have the skill to communicate. They just don't. Most people can't communicate that fast. They're not quick on their feet, right, Peter? That's just a rare skill, just as much as a great guitar player, right?
Exactly, Troy. You know, and it should be always like I'm not saying should be, but what we do is kind of like improvisation. You know, so we go from, just like Chris was saying, like I don't know what I'm going to talk about, but once when I hit the mic, I know what I'm going to talk about. And it's like it's like good communication skills. Good communication skills. Yeah, go with flow. Good communication skills, like you mentioned, Troy, and just improvise. You know. And whatever we talk about, we'll just take it from there. You know, just like, you know, when you have an open jam with band, you know, somebody mentioned this before already, you know, open jam. What are we going to play? Hit the chord, hit the drum beat.
There's another secret I want to tell the world, and maybe they can implement this. I think if someone was implement this, because I'm not going to live forever. We're not going to live forever. If someone wants to do this, is really simple. I thought of it as being, and this is just me. And obviously we're doing it on a natural aspect, so we don't have to really know about this. But this is what I thought of it as being like. You ever play a game called Kings? Anyone when you were a kid?
King. I've played King of the Mountain, King's in the Corner.
No, but King in the Car, I think, is more like it. So basically, King is like someone talking about a subject matter, and then the next person tries to get a higher subject matter so they can outdo that subject matter. Well, I thought, well, play Kings, but don't try to be over dominant. Just try to get that communication going. And that's why I thought about Shop Talk as being, you're trying to communicate, but you're trying to also give yourself a chance to throw a topic.
If you ask me, we always called that a pissing contest.
Well, we're doing an opposite pissing contest. It's the reverse pissing contest. That's like put the piss in your body, but you know what I mean? There's a reverse here. We're trying to transmit while still receiving information, you know? I think there's a skill. There is a skill in it, though. There is a skill. And we'll find out with the guests. Every guest we have, we see the skill come and go. I know some guests are more talkative than others, but the chemistry can work no matter if you're less talkative or more talkative. As long as you can retain the information, maybe you can throw it out as fast. As Elon Musk says, we're great at receiving information. Human beings are hard at expirating or releasing information correctly. I guess.
Yeah.
That's
But
true. That's
sure.
true fact.
Oh,
Sure, and Chris, you know what? Like we said before, this is gonna stay on YouTube after we are gone. But
Way gone.
these kind of chats that we have, you know, are going to be inspiration for next generation, for our kids, our grandkids, you know, and they're gonna look back and they're gonna say like, oh my God, that guy, he was so cool.
Well,
They were talking about this and this and that, or my daddy or my mommy or whoever, or my uncle, you know. So it's going to be inspiration for kids, and I see it on my sons, that my sons are going back to 70s 80s, you know, and they actually refuse to follow what is really modern right now, because they see, and they smart kids, they're going to be 11 in January next year, 2023, and they're like, Daddy, what was done in 80s was much better than what is done right now.
Well, and also, Peter, I wanted to publicly here on the channel thank you for allowing me that interview, because I've had other artists and I've had other potential shows with young prodigies. One was as young as 9 years old, and then the parents went back and they watched my show and they saw that I was smoking pot and I was swearing and all that other stuff. And I says, those are my adult shows. When we have kids on the show, it is a totally different show. There is no smoking, no cussing. We go Disney almost. And we focus more on what the kid is doing, what the kid likes, you know, stuff like that, you know. And as you saw, that's what we did with your kids on the show as our guests, and we appreciate having Iced LA on here, and we would love to have them again as they progress.
Thank you, Chris.
Ahead.
Thank you very much for saying that. And just to let you know, my sons are very well educated about drugs. Weed is not bad, but obviously not for 10-year-old kids. All right?
Right.
So, but they do understand, you know, that no alcohol, no any kind of drugs, not even weed, you know. And all right, as far as cuss words, let me put it this way: they cannot use cuss words. They cannot use cuss words in school, but they are allowed to use it in recording studio. So, and I'm not gonna stop them. They becoming teenagers, you know. When I walk to school every morning, every day, I hear 10-year-old, 8-year-old kids calling F-bombs, S-bombs, whatever, you know. And I don't want my sons not to understand what they're talking about. So, but my sons are very well taught, and they have good manners. They're not gonna say anything bad on TV or the radio, anything like that. So, and they understand, like, let's say as a host, you, for instance, if you smoke weed, you are adult. It's legal. It's okay for you, but it's not okay for them, you know. So if parents will say like, oh, I don't want my kid to be on show because he's smoking weed. I didn't smoke weed on our show, but I smoked weed on previous show with adults, you know. To me it's bullshit. I mean, we are adults, you know. We can do, you know, whatever is legal, and whatever doesn't hurt anybody else. And kids should be educated, especially about drugs. If they're not, what's going to happen when they go to high school? There's going to be this cool girl or cool guy, and they're going to give them all kinds of pills. Try this, it's going to make you feel better. I see it happening in the park every time I go to park. Teenagers, you know, they smoking weed, even worse. Okay.
Well, see,
and we need to educate them.
I was the same way. My kids, you know, I didn't blatantly smoke in front of them or anything, but I never hid the fact that I smoke pot, you know, because when you hide it from your kids, in my opinion, it makes them think you're doing a bad thing. So, you know, I never hid it from my kids, but I wasn't blatant about it. And I told them, you know, smoking weed is not a bad thing. It's a natural plant that comes from the earth. It's been used for over 5,000 years throughout history. But, you know, and I tell them, there'd be days where I'd drop my stepson off at school and he'd be walking up and I'd roll down the window. I love you, son. Don't do crappy drugs.
Don't do crappy.
Exactly. And Chris, you know what? This is exactly what I'm telling my sons. I said, like, weed is so natural. It's much better than cigarettes that I smoke, or alcohol, beer that I drink. You know,
true.
So, but I am not telling you to go and smoke weed. Stay away from alcohol, cigarettes, and weed or any kind of drugs. You know, so but if they, when they are 20 years old or 25 years old, if they decide to pick up joint, you know, it's gonna be their choice. My thing is just I'm telling them, like, if you end up smoking weed when you're 25, don't try to reach after harder drugs like speed or crack or cocaine, or even the worst of the worst is heroin, you know. And I'm teaching them that, and they understand. They're very smart kids. So,
Now,
and that's my hope.
When my stepson was in high school, he kept trying to get me to smoke with him. And I always said, with the day you turn 18, I will smoke with you. And I stuck to that. Now, there was a time or two he'd come home from school in a really bad mood, and I'd set a grinder and a hitter down on the table, and I'd walk out of the room. I knew he was having a hitter real quick while I wasn't there. But what I don't see, I don't know. Now, when he turned 18, we sat down and we smoked, and we said, "Now, if you want to smoke some, go ahead, feel free. But just remember, there will always be a stigma on it, even when you're trying to get a good job or all that stuff." And so, I mean, he understood and quit for a job.
And the only drug that's like that too. Actually, it's the only drug that's like that. There's a stigma. It's legal. There's just a stigma. Well, that's prohibition. That's prohibition cycling after. But here, last thing on the whole thing. I know our guest is gonna be on here soon. I have a lot of snow coming out on the windows, as I took a few pictures. If you're wondering what I was doing, it's getting thick, by the way, out here in Washington State. It's at least 3 inches. Wow. Unless when we're broadcasting, it's been like, wow. I can see but
send me half of it, Troy. Send me half of it.
I'm gonna send you a picture. It's getting thick, man. It's getting thick.
I want some down here. I was just saying a couple hours ago while I was doing Asgard, I really miss my winter sports, my sledding, my snowboarding, my skiing, and I love the fact that when you look out the window and see 8 inches of snow, you can see the fucking cold, and you know it's there, and that's the cold I don't mind.
It's right. It's right there in front of me. Like I said, I have a skyline window that Levi set up, and that is getting caked. It's at least 3 inches out there. I can see the road. It's getting treacherous. I'm pretty sure when I first see people going back and forth and having problems with their cars, this is going to get interesting and fun. This is where I enjoy my life, because then I've become a journalist looking at the traffic, literally from my window.
Well, we're going to go for the national radar.
It's pretty thick, my friend. It's got some thickies. You got thick snow. And here's the thing. And last thing on the coincidence stuff, because I know we're going to get close to our guests. But Peter, I don't know if you saw the Swan song, "Winter Maiden," but that whole song was based on snow. And is it a coincidence, or are we getting the fortune of a winter maiden? It is snowing like it was Finland.
I haven't had a chance to watch it. I just saw some link that you sent me, but I didn't have a chance to watch it. So, but
yeah, it's all snow. It's like it's just like it's an aerial view of I'll just, not that spoiler alert, but if you haven't seen the video, it's an aerial view of a lot of snow. And of course, you get this lead singer, and there's a lot of promo in between, but a lot of snow. That's my only spoiler. A lot of snow. It's Finland.
Yeah. I like that song, Trans-Siberian Orchestra. Oh my God.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Something winter.
Winter Maiden is the name of the song. Winter Maiden from Swan Song. And it's doing really well. It's over 12,000 as we speak. It might be 13,000 now. It's only been in for about 4.5 days. And I truly believe that if you support a band and they're getting signed with another label and you're the guys helping them, keep on helping them. Keep on pushing them. I'm getting some people saying, "Oh, tags are bad." It's like, we can't share anymore on Facebook. That's the only way you can kind of get it out. If you over message, you get blocked. You know, what choice do we have to promote nowadays? I mean, used to be flyers and give you a CD. Now you got to blast it as far as you can just to be known. So, and the numbers don't lie. Those are good numbers for 4 days, right, Peter? 12,000 plus, and you know that's not bad, huh? For 4 days for views,
yeah,
that's not bad.
I mean, yeah, you're right at that. You know that numbers are important, but we have to also remember one thing: that social media nowadays is so I would call like corrupted that people can actually buy views on YouTube or or likes on Facebook, somehow, like these are like people that like somebody just like accidentally, like on YouTube, like you play something and then there is an autoplay and that song is promoted and somebody just listens to first 3 seconds and it gives you a hit, but they pause it and they move on to different song what they really wanted to hear, so it is numbers are numbers, but it's not always that like somebody gets 12,000 13,000 hits immediately, unless it's somebody like Metallica, so
Right.
and people can actually promote themselves, and I got these offers and I said like, no, I don't need to just buy some views and stuff. So anyways,
Right.
it's kind of like
that was one thing I didn't like about Twitch. And I still get a lot of different stuff. You can buy followers and buy likes, and I don't buy. I'm sorry, unless you're a judge or a police officer, I don't buy people.
No,
yeah, exactly.
No. Lawyer, you mean a lawyer? I mean is, this is my
if
opinion.
you bribe the judge or the police, you don't need the lawyer.
Right. But this is not political. This is business in the music business, and because people will think this is political, but it's not. It's actuality. For instance, like the UE and the city and the other thing that's owned by these big giant corporations, right? They regulate the accuracy. And I noticed, I'm a sharer, and some people have ever said, Troy, you promote a lot on the internet. Well, I do, because I've been doing this since 2006, since I had an account here on Facebook. And what I've learned is YouTube has not only got better or worse, they do monitor the likes and the views. And so what they did was recently we made it where you couldn't down something and be it seeable. You could see the ups, but you couldn't see the downs, right, Peter? And that's changed. And I think the monitoring of it and the actual value of it is a little better, actually. It's actual, because I see them devalue our stuff. But I think the reason why they're devaluing it because they're trying to see if that's an accurate view, is that you are actually viewing it for one time. And they're only going to do it one time vote and say that this is being viewed. It ain't going to be like you can see it 500 times, it's be counted for 500 times. No, you got to be that you are, and it's got to be that one person, and it's got to be that one view. So I think it's more accurate now than it was before, in my opinion.
Of course, but what I ran into, especially here in LA or Orange County area, let's say local band would have like 100,000 record label, no signed, 100,000 hits, in probably the 6 months after they released something.
Right.
So and then they were playing local gig, and guess who showed up?
Not many.
5 to 20 people.
Yeah, that's not real momentum now.
I'm a little bit more old school way. I'm like, how many people you draw? How many people you can bring? Can you bring 100 people, 500 people, 1,000 people? I really don't care if you have 100,000 views, or whatever, But how many people? How many people you can bring to at least local gig that you are headlining? You're not opening for a big band.
I hear you.
Yeah,
but Peter, well, I'm trying to alliterate before we get our guests on in about 10 minutes. And this is a good point for everyone to know. I think as musicians, as artists, promoters, anything you just want to pick your stuff up, is we kind of know that people generally, if they want to be original, they should know what that meant. Like if you had I have 500 people show up at my show, I'm like, whoa, I got momentum. Was that, like we were talking before, a long time I've interviewed before, is like, was that a drawn crowd by other people? So that ain't your crowd. That's someone else's crowd. Like if you have a big band and you're the opening band, that ain't your crowd. That's someone else's crowd. So you want to alliterate that too.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what happened to my band, one of the local bands in Minneapolis over 20 years ago, that the headliner didn't draw shit. And my band, we brought in like 150 people.
Right. We
were opening. We packed a house. It was a small club, probably holding like 150 people. So, and we were opening for the band, for headliner. After we were done playing, there was probably 20 people left. Everybody left. And the headliner said like, oh, we're going to open up for you next time. I'm like, okay, well, whatever, and there was no YouTube back then, nothing, no Facebook.
Because there's no draw. I hate to say it, but even I've done every role pretty much. I have the journalist role, I've done the booking role, I've done the promoter role, I've done the singing role. I even done the let's play the bass. That's about far I can do. I play the piano. I told you my musical history. But basically, what I'm getting at is that numbers count, and this is something I will say until I'm dead, and I've said to my friends, I'm going to tell the whole world right now: numbers don't lie. People do. Numbers never lie. Right, Peter?
Well, kind of, sort of, but like I was saying 5
They're
minutes
real
ago,
numbers.
I don't know. Ask the Wolf of Wall Street.
Well, those are fake numbers. I'm talking accurately real numbers. I'm not artificially implanted fake numbers. I'm talking real numbers. That's a human being doing that, or a bad robot.
I'm talking, Troy, about the numbers on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or Twitter.
That's true. That's true.
So
I think it's the 82, 83 thing that Sammy Hagar was saying is that there was a difference between MTV coming in and when there was no MTV. At 82, Sammy was doing really good and no one knew him, even though he had hundreds of thousands of people seeing it because they're all rockers, they're all metalheads, and that was their mindset. No one normally would know who he was. But once 83 hit and MTV was on his ass and everyone knew who he was by his face, by his appearance. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
Mainstream versus just being well known in your own genre and in your musical fan base, right? So
yeah, I was just reading an article about it from Dean Zelinsky, who makes Dean guitars. We mentioned them in the beginning of our show, did we? Oh, that was a backstage.
Yeah, we mentioned a little bit of guitars.
But I read a really interesting article yesterday. Dean Zelensky, who actually is a luthier who makes Dean guitars, and he goes like, "What is the difference? How did he put it? Difference between Eddie Van Halen and Yngwie Malmsteen, two the greatest guitarists in the world." And he put it this way. He said, Yngwie Malmsteen brings 500 guitar players to his show. Eddie Van Halen brings 500 guitarists to his show and 25,000 fans. That was back then, obviously, before Eddie passed away. And he is right at that. What Dean Zelinsky was trying to say is that it's about writing hit songs, something that is epic. That Eddie Van Halen, obviously, he wrote so many. And Yngwie Malmsteen, he wrote, but only in his particular audience or his market,
Right.
So not like hit songs. So both of them, two great guitarists, the top of the world. But that was his point. Like, what really matters is that if you write a hit song,
right.
So, and these are the numbers. Eddie Van Halen, he brought 30,000 people to show, as a headliner. Yeah, that's
Great
right.
Contrast.
Okay,
great contrast you make.
And Yngwie Malmsteen, when he's headlining House of Blues, there's probably 2,000-3,000 people,
Right.
And he's great. And I saw him play festivals from the 30,000 people, but somebody was closing, either Ozzy. I think that was the last big one that I saw, so it's not his crowd. It's Ozzy Osbourne, or it could be different band, Metallica, Iron Maiden, whoever.
Right. And what would you say that between the two, who had the more, I guess, time in the studio versus time in the practice room trying to figure it out?
Well, that's a good question, and I would say both of them equally, and that's what Dean Zelinsky was saying. Like, he called it, and I heard this term before, that guitarist or guitar player is sleeping and living with his guitar. Pretty much practicing like whole day. But it's about writing hits. But to answer your question, I believe that Eddie Van Halen and Yngwie, they dedicated, their whole life and time into being in the recording studio and writing. It's just like, here's the difference. Some people myself included, they don't want to go as big as Michael Jackson, Prince, Madonna, Metallica, Iron Maiden, Eddie Van Halen in this case. Some people, they decided to stay like where they want to be. I am included. I could have been way, way, way up there if I really wanted to. No, I just want to be simple, humble, stay on the ground, play 500 to 3,000 people. That's cool with me. I don't need to, I played 180,000 people festival, but it wasn't my crowd. I was opening.
I'm going to send you a link because I think you made the exact point that Sammy Hagar made just a few days ago. Because he made a YouTube link or a Facebook link. Basically, he did a 4-year reunion of when he got famous in 82 to 83 and the difference, what happened. He said it was a problem for him socially and because it became a serious problem. Because after 83, he just had to change his lifestyle. Because like in 82, it was okay. But in 83, he had to change everything. Where he went, how he went. Everything because of the fan base of the media howling of it all.
Exactly, Troy. And that's the whole point what I'm trying to say, that people have to change lifestyle, and some people decide not to take that route, not to go that big. Look at Kurt Cobain, Nirvana, when was it? They fucking started flying first album, and Kurt Cobain, he wasn't ready. He wanted to stay, just like in his own zone in Seattle, where they were based out of originally.
He went to LA a lot too, though.
Yeah. So, but he wasn't ready for that, and he said it. Like I wasn't ready to become so big. But the record label, they want to make money. Oh boy, you're gonna go big. You're gonna be playing 20,000 people, whether you like it or not. We want to make that dough. You're not gonna be playing unplugged shows anymore in front of 150 or 300 people. You're gonna go playing stadiums. You will do it, and he wasn't ready for that. He wasn't ready. He was ready for that, playing it physically, but emotionally, he didn't want to take that route. He just wanted to, play in front of his small crowd and, be happy and make people happy.
It's called prime time and mainstream, and that's what Sammy said. That's difference. Yeah. The big difference when you get that big, like everyone knows you kind of feel.
All right.
Okay, how much time do we have left? Because I have to go pizzeria.
Do we have the new guy on yet?
We have they are here. I was gonna say with that, we are gonna wrap up this segment and get on to Hellfrost here. Holy shit.
Let's do a sneak peek real fast, Pete, before we change over to part 2. Hellfrost. Go ahead, say something. We can see you.
We see him. I see him.
Does he have an audio though?
Who?
Hellfrost.
He should.
Okay, you want to click to the left, Hellfrost. Is that Wi-Fi symbol? If you're not familiar with Zoom, and then we can hear you. You can see video, but you can't hear you.
Oh, I can see Talking Metal, and
he's got
guy with mask.
Ain't a mask, dude.
I'm kind of scared of what's to come here.
We gotta hear him though, so he's got to hit that Wi-Fi side button, off of Zoom.
Oh my God, that nun is one of the scariest I've ever seen, and I went to Catholic school for a bit.
I can't see him until he says something, dude. I'm on the other side of the edge here.
Here we go.
I can see, but I can't hear.
We can hear something.
All right. Yes, Peter, you gotta see this guy.
Yeah, I can see
a little bit. Hello, Hellfrost.
How are you doing?
This is Shop Talk with Peter Cerman and Chronic Chris. I'm Troy Anderson of International.
Awesome.
How you been?
Good.
I love your nun, by the way. It reminds me of Powerful fans. They all like that one song. Girl's best friend is a demon, or a demon's a girl's best friend. Everyone want to say it in German or in English. And they have a lot of people dressed in nun outfits. If you notice on the last Powerwolf shows, and it just is sexy as hell to watch a girl in a nun outfit. So I take, is that a male or female? I do not know. What would you cross? Is that an actual statuette? That's an actual person there sitting. They're both people. They're so still though. They're so still. I can see you're real, but like everyone else. Okay, yeah, move around. So are these our band members, or what we got here? Hellfrost.
No, they're all part of the show.
They're all part of the show. Okay, let's introduce them.
All right. Well, give me just a minute here. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a blast hanging out with you. Feel free to like, share all you want, and stick around because we're going to get around to part 2 talking with Hellfrost here on Chronic Chris Show, AsgardRadio.com with Troy E. Anderson, International Punk King, Shop Talk International, Peter Cerman, and Hellfrost.